So I'm really grateful to have Pat here. Pat's a community development executive who spent decades turning neglected buildings into real Kansas City community assets. And she helped lead the design on the $6 million renovation of the Gym Theater in the Jazz District, and has guided projects like Morningstar's Youth and Family Center, Senior Housing, and Greenwood School redevelopment. And her work sits at the intersection of housing, culture, and neighborhood power, rebuilding places in a way that actually serves the people who live there. Can we make some noise for Pat George?
Thank you so much. And thank you all for coming out today. I really appreciate your presence and your spirit.
Absolutely, Pat. So we're going to go through a few different topics while we have you here today. And the first topic is where Kansas City is really at. When you hear MLK and think about your work today in Kansas City, what's the first tension or first thing that comes to mind you're excited about that comes to mind?
Well, in actuality, when Martin Luther King passed away, I started thinking about what it meant to be a leader. And I also started thinking about the fact that each and every one of us has this responsibility to step up in our own rights and in our own ways. And for me, that really meant stepping out on faith. And if I had a dream, and I have a dream still, just to go ahead and follow that, to follow your heart. And that really is what Martin Luther King, to me, lived for and died for.
Absolutely. I'm a dreamer like you. We were just talking about that. Now, if Dr. King walked into 18th and Vine, he walked into, Vine Street Brewing Company, walked into your studio, walked into 18th Street itself, what do you think he would notice first?
Well, the fact that we are here, I think he would just be really proud of what Kansas City has done. There are people who come here from all over the world, obviously, and as an example of that, when there's a mayor's conference that is hosted every year in different cities, and a group of mayors came to 18th and Vine and council people, and they really did start, a lot of them were saying, we don't have this in our cities. And I think sometimes we forget, even though we talk about, well, why isn't there more? Why didn't it happen sooner? Why isn't it happening more now? We forget that most folk don't even have what we have. And so I just want Kansas City, and part of what we're doing now, of course, is marketing, getting the word out more in terms of what it is that we do have and actually celebrating what we do have, and coming together more to help each other and promote what it is that we have already.
Yeah, that's real. A lot of people do say, hey, we need this, but do they notice what we actually have? Because we might already have what we need, right?
Yeah, and in actuality we do. I mean, we've got some more buildings that we need to build, but in terms of the talent, right, and in terms of the passion, and in terms of what it is that we can all do together, we've got that.
Yeah. And perfect segue, because, when we talk about, a Black cultural district, how do we turn it even more operational than more, I guess, nostalgic that a lot of people do frame 18th and Vine to be?
Well, I'm working on an historic website for 18th and Vine, because one of our challenges is that when people come to Kansas City, they don't know what was here. And we have such a rich history. I mean, I just had a Zoom conversation with the MARR Sound Archives that's at UMKC. And they have actually thousands of photographs and artifacts, not artifacts, but thousands of audio recordings of jazz artists and others in Kansas City, but particularly those who came, lived, and worked at 18th and Vine. So there's just so much history that has not been told, and I think that's one of our responsibilities, is help to tell the story.
Yeah, that's huge, and that's another reason why we started Vine Street Brewing Company. We had so much, I hate to reference a military term, but we had so much ammunition, if you will, historic-wise and culture-wise to run with and leverage and bring back to life. So I guess For those who don't actually know what's going on in 18th and Vine today, can you maybe paint a picture about what is to come?
We have, in actuality, over $400 million worth of real estate development that's coming online. And so the new Parade Park Homes, which will be a multi-million-dollar commercial, retail, and housing. We've got the expanded and new, in essence, Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. The 400-plus space garage will be built at 18th and Paseo, will be ready for the World Cup. Along with that will come a baseball-themed boutique hotel and apartments. So the Joe Brothers Art Center, the existing cultural facilities that we have here. I'm telling you, I mean, we're really experiencing a renaissance as it relates to 18th and Vine.
Absolutely. And, some of those projects do take time to finish. I mean, we are excited about projects like even the 18th Street streetcar extension. But, that will take some time. So when we talk about 5 to 10 years from now, I've got small kids, but when they're perhaps becoming, teenagers and such of that nature, what do you hope that they can experience in 18th and Vine?
Well, we hope that are they as talented as their dad is?
They certainly think so, and I do too. So,
do they think so? Yeah. Well, we want them to be able to perform and flourish right here at 18th and Vine. We want them to raise their families in the 18th and Vine district because, of course, that's what happened years ago. There was so much happening in terms of doctors, lawyers, teachers, families who grew up in and around 18th and Vine. This was the center of culture and history for the African American community, and so we just want to grow that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's real. Now, when you talk about and this is me kind of dipping my toe into some things that I'm interested in. When you talk about like Kansas City's identity, how do you feel about Kansas City leaning more on its musical heritage as far as its brand?
As opposed to sports, yeah, I'm all about.
Or fountains.
Or fountains.
Primarily fountains.
Primarily fountains.
Yeah.
No, we have a lot more work to do as it relates to culture. I want us to elevate culture. But, what I'm trying to do, too, is to draw a relationship with sports. Because in actuality, when you look at those numbers, we know that there are millions of people who pay more attention to sports than they do culture. Yeah. So we've got to figure out how it is that we can formulate partnerships with our, with our sports friends.
Yes, I agree. And we do have, even like I said, this neighborhood has a rich sports history with the municipal stadium that was a few blocks away where, the Chiefs got their start, and I think the precursor to the Royals were there.
Yep, the A's, the Kansas City A's, athletics, yeah.
Exactly. The Negro Leagues started here in 18th and Vine. So yeah, I mean, I totally agree.
Sports folks are our friends. There's absolutely no question about that. We just have to figure out how to work together and how to do business together.
That's facts.
Yeah, because maybe some of these sports people can invest in 18th and Vine.
I completely agree. That'd be fantastic, Royals. All right, I would like to do a quick sponsor break. This session is sponsored by our beer E71. E71 is a sparkling ale that is easy to drink and very crushable. We named it E71 because we wanted to rep our hood, which is east of 71. So yeah, please grab an E71 whenever you can.
You use the term crushable.
Crushable?
Yeah, what is that?
Oh, you can just have, it's easy drinking. Okay, just like water.
That's kind of probably a young folks term.
Yeah, chuggable. Although I don't really know, I'm not trying to condone everybody to chug it per se, but I want you to taste it.
I see. I'm getting an education here.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
All right.
If you need to learn how to taste the beer, our beer stars are fully equipped with that. All right, so I think, Pat, it would be nice. You talked about housing earlier. I think housing is such an important piece to the future of this neighborhood, and especially as it relates to equity and what MLK really stood for. What do you see housing-wise in this particular district that is good and housing-wise that we need to improve upon?
Funny you should ask.
Yes.
So, I built a house at 19th and Cleveland some 30 years ago because I'm just a firm believer in the urban core. But as we look around at the neighborhoods that we grew up in, we come to understand that we have a lot of work to do. So we're short about 57,000 units of affordable housing in Kansas City. So one day I woke up and once again I said, okay, if somebody's going to do something about it, perhaps it is me. So we formulated an organization called Community Cares KC, which is about affordable housing. So we've got 3 goals and objectives, and one of them is to build and I'll leave these in case you guys want to pick one of these up. But one of the goals is to build a fund for small-scale developers, because what we're saying is that folks who live and work in the urban core need to be able to have as many incentives as folks who are downtown or elsewhere in order to build. And so the fund, and we've gotten so far 6 or 7 banks who have agreed to contribute to this fund. And we also are wanting to set up a resource hub for small-scale developers, neighborhood organizations, and others who want to build 1 to 12 units in our urban core neighborhoods, primarily those that are east of Troost in the 3rd and 5th districts. So that's how I feel about it. I felt so strongly about it that I wanted to actually do something about it and not just talk about doing something about it.
I completely agree. And is this initiative that you just referenced, is it more so infill projects or renovations, historic preservation, or anything?
Rehab is included, but we have between Kansas City, Missouri, and Kansas City, Kansas, there are about 3,500 vacant lots in Kansas City, Missouri, and about 4,000 vacant lots in Kansas City, Kansas.
Yeah.
So we talk a lot about new construction, but we also are looking to help fund rehab as well.
Yeah.
So we've come to understand that that's where the gap is. I mean, we know that large developers, and we love everybody, as I say, but large developers have the money, they have the incentives, they have the resources to build these large apartment buildings that we're seeing that are going up. And we don't want to discourage any of that, of course, but all we're saying is that those of us who live east of Troost need to have the same kinds of incentives.
Right.
And so instead of relying on government to do that, because government can only go so far, we decided that we would solicit banks ourselves, and we've been so far successful in doing that.
I mean, with 6 banks on board, that's pretty impressive.
It was pretty impressive. I was just like, wow, because even the consultant that we've hired to help us do that has said he's been impressed with the response.
Wow.
So I think that there are probably more people out here who want to help than we know.
Right.
We just need to we have to do more to reach out to folks.
Yes,
Yeah.
I completely agree. And it's so funny you say that because, for so long, and I think you can fall victim to this and say, like, no one's doing this, or no one is helping, or no one is really on my side. But really that's not true, because once you start having momentum and actually taking initiative, you'll start to see that people will join you, and people that you probably didn't expect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And I'm sure you've seen that as a result of what you guys have so successfully done here at 21st and Vine. I cannot tell you how proud I am of what you have done, because I know this is not an easy journey.
No.
To be an entrepreneur and to try to build things, to get things to come out of the ground in the urban core takes more than a notion.
Yep.
So congratulations to you and to your team for what you've done.
I appreciate that. So, in the spirit of Dr. King, and really, what we're talking about is what, I think he would want from us as community members. When we talk about projects, you've been in this neighborhood for, a few decades, and you've done the work here. I would love to share a little bit about, like, your work with the Gym Theater. And how you got involved with that, and kind of what that process was like.
Well, it was kind of the same thing, because when I kept coming to 18th and Vine and seeing this beautiful edifice, this facade that was just amazing. And I said, we cannot, and there was talk about actually tearing the gym theater down and not replacing it.
Wow.
And I just said, this cannot happen. And one day I talked to the then owners of the Black Economic Union, and they said, well, why don't you take this on as a project? Huh. And I said, you know, sort of kind of the same challenge what you're talking about before. And I thought about, and I just said, oh okay.
Right.
Not really knowing or understanding. Well, that was in 1989. We didn't open until 1997. Ooh. So it took 8 years.
Ouch.
Yes, it took 8 years, but I was bound and determined to make that happen. I felt as if the Black community deserved its own theater. You know, especially because we have young folk who want to perform and want to have a place that we could have meetings, et cetera. And so I thought, my feeling was we deserved that.
I agree. And thank you for that. We should all give her a round of applause for the Gym Theater. Seriously.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's a labor of love.
So I have another question, and then we'll jump into questions. What would Dr. King want to do with that castle?
Well, you know, I was having a conversation about that. You know, the International Jazz Hall of Fame was supposed to be was supposed to be made up of these buildings.
Okay.
Yeah, but you know, yeah. But that's another story. You know, I think it should be a special event facility.
Yeah.
You know, that's my hope.
Right.
And that it will be able to be tied into all of us here, and then of course 18th and Vine.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that response. All right, we've got Pat for another 14 minutes. So if anyone has any questions they would like to ask her about her journey, you know, here in Kansas City, grab the mic. Yep. Now, I will say this mic does not amplify you. It is for video. Yep.
It is such a privilege to be standing here, and I just wanted to start with that. Miss Pat, what's your biggest advice for anyone who wants to start in any project, whether art, activism, and they have all this passion, and they don't want to just be another person that shares quotes, but they don't know where to even begin and how to be vulnerable. And, you know, what would you say to someone who wants to start but maybe doesn't know where to even go yet?
You know, well, thank you for the your comment and your question. You know, I do say a lot to just dive in, but actually, you know, what I have been saying a lot these days is to ask ChatGPT. I mean, I really have. ChatGPT, who I adoringly call Chad, has saved me so much time and effort. And when ChatGPT says, ask me anything, I was like, okay, well, here we go. And it has written programs, it has written business plans for me, and I use it as a tool that can save you time and energy and effort, so that your energies can be used to further your project. You know, you don't have to spend a lot of time writing or thinking about what your next steps should be, because it will do that for you. So ask Chad.
Use your resources, your tools.
Yeah, and simply start. You know, that's what I tell people. Is start asking questions, and you will gradually build relationships with people who will help you along your journey, and maintain faith. Maintain faith. Thank you.
Yeah, and I will also say, leverage your network. That is the only way I've gotten anything done, really. You know, I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses, and I try to find people that can help me with my blind spots. Yeah, for sure. And then, you know, really, you never know who might be of assistance. So when I network, I definitely don't say, oh, it's like, I just don't say that, because there have been people, you know, when I was, you know, younger, you know, I was meeting people that were in finance and banks and stuff, and I was just like, well, I don't know what they got to do with me. But now those relationships are very useful because, whether it's sponsoring a festival or, helping out with a building like this, I'm able to tap into those people. So yeah, leveraging the heck out of your network.
Yeah, because you never know who's watching. And every time I go somewhere and I think, I don't know why I'm here, something happens.
Yeah.
Something happens. You meet someone who can help you along the way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Reach. Thank you, Miss Pat, for being here. Appreciate your time, and thank you, Kemet, for organizing this. And since we're talking about Martin Luther King and the dream, I love YouTube also, like how I like ChatGPT, and trying to look up those speeches that we haven't heard, I think we all know I Have a Dream, but he's talked about one thing that sticks out to me about what he's talked about is economic mobility in the Black community. And being a researcher at heart, I've seen, stats on violence. I've seen stats on education and, these different things. And to me, it seems, the underlining answer to all of that is really growing economic mobility, whoever desires it, right? So my question to you, Ms. Pat, is, you have Community Cares KC. You've done some amazing things. I mean, I know your track record is ridiculous. People in the community talk about you, and you probably don't even know that they're talking about you in a good way. So it's almost like you have this, my little brother Craig, he uses this word, you have this audacity to go and do the thing anyway, regardless. So
that's pretty accurate.
Yeah,
that's pretty accurate.
Yes. So in alignment with Dr. King, and when he talked about economic mobility and communities of color and the audacity that you have to really trailblaze that in Kansas City, if we could really be honest, I guess what gave you that audacity?
Probably my family, my cousin, my mother and father. Starting off with, my father was one of the first superintendents of the Now's Home for Children, just up the street, and my mother was a teacher in the Kansas City, Missouri School District. My cousin was Vernon Jordan, who was a very good close friend of President Bill Clinton's, and so I've had some tremendous role models. But aside from that, I remember when I was probably in 6 or 7 years old, I said I wanted to be the first woman on the moon. So, it's like I think it's just an inner spirit, that has just, when you listen to yourself, listen to what your spirit is telling you, but you have to be still and listen. And I just continually did that, and I still do that. I mean, I wake up in the morning and I say, okay, let me listen to what is being told for me to do, and that is what drives me from day to day. The other thing I say is that when you wake up in the morning, you got two choices. You can either be sad or you can be happy. It's your choice, right? It's our choice. And I especially think that as African American women, I think that we need to take that intuition that we have, that people talk about, and take that seriously, because we know, and we just need to follow our hearts and our minds. Yeah. But thank you for that. Thank you so much.
That's a great question. Any other questions for Pat Jordan?
Adarius.
Hi, Pat.
Hi, Adarius.
So, for those who don't know me, my name is Adarius. I go by the artist name King Derry. This is not a question. This is more just of acknowledgement. Something that in my family that we do is we acknowledge the trailblazers who paved the way for us. And so for me to be here in this space with someone as talented and who has paved the way for someone like me to be here. I just want to say thank you. I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate you for everything you've done for everyone, and myself included. And I'm just so grateful for the work that you're doing and continuing to do for Kansas City. And please know that it does not go unnoticed. So thank you.
Thank you, Adarius. That's very sweet and kind of you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's huge. Any others? I have a question. What is one of your favorite memories about this neighborhood?
Wow, there are so many. Really, there seriously are. I mean, I've just met some fantastic folks here. You know, Kevin Wilmot, award-winning film producer. I presented the Queen Bey, who was just a legendary jazz singer in Kansas City. She and I became friends. Oh my God! I mean, you know, all I can tell you is that, you know, the possibility of who you can meet at 18th and Vine is incredible. Wow. And it's only going to get better, especially with the World Cup and after the World Cup. There is no doubt in my mind that people are, you stick around because, because it's going to be fabulous. You can meet almost anyone here. I have met people from all over the world right here in Kansas City, and it's going to be really something else.
Yeah, I agree. And we do get a lot of tourists that come here from all over the world. We've had folks from Alaska, we've had folks from New Zealand, we've had folks from Ireland, we've had folks from everywhere. And I think 18th and Vine is that magnet, to your point.
I walked out a couple of months ago, and there were some folks from Italy, and we have maintained a communication since. So you just absolutely never know who it is you're going to meet.
I completely agree. And I know we've got 4 minutes left with you. So I did kind of want to touch on the World Cup a little bit, just because it's such a huge thing that's coming on, and I think a lot of people are having a hard time grasping what it means for Kansas City. Well, what does it mean for Kansas City, and then how can this neighborhood in particular apply what needs to be done to make it such an experience for guests?
Well, I know that there's a group that's has formed, that is meeting, that's wanting to come up with some sort of physical event that would attract folks to come. And I'm not sure what you guys are planning for the World Cup. I think you guys are planning some things too.
Yeah.
I am, once again, it's the 18th and Vine historic website that we are developing, that we'll launch in the spring. And so from my standpoint, our contribution will be having a place where folks can go and learn the history of 18th and Vine. Because if you're trying to discover the history now, you have to do a lot of work to try to figure it out. And we all have done that, I think, and we've come up with bits and pieces, but we wanted to devise a place where folks could come and just get that basic education and understanding of the wonderfulness of 18th and Vine. So that's what we're doing.
I love that. Any closing remarks before we let you go?
Wow, this has been, once again, you never know what's going to happen. Thank you for being here, for your questions, for your spirit, because I feel that, it's coming through, and thank you, Kemet.
My pleasure. All right, let's make some noise for Ms. Pat Jordan.
Thank you, guys. And I would stick around, but I got to go get a check.
Yeah, a very sizable check. I'll keep that amount unknown.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Pat. So, technically we've got, another 15 more minutes. So if anybody else wants to talk about anything, let's do it. Yeah, come on up. Let's do it. Yeah, let's go. Yep. Damn well. What's up?
Uh-oh.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go for it. Yep. Yeah, you're good. I'm well, man. It's been good to see you doing your thing and being around and all that stuff, man. Appreciate it.
I've been paying attention, you know. Like I'm the type of person that like, even though I don't say anything, I still see it.
Yeah.
You know. And I've been watching your journey from conception to reality, and it is so inspiring to me.
Wow,
like
man.
legitimately, bro.
Thank you.
I want to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart that I actually been talking to Pat about. Bless her. What a wonderful person.
Yeah, seriously.
Something that I've realized is that there is a lot of disparity, racial disparity. Since we're on MLK week,
Yep.
something that he touched upon was racial disparity and economic disparity between Black people, Black Americans, and the rest of the communities. And I want to touch up on that in the music scene.
Okay.
I've had several conversations with a few people who were here last time, and every single one of them, they had the same conversation and the same answer, that there is a clear divide between those people. And so as a person that is boots to ground on the community that you've seen,
Yep.
I have witnessed it firsthand. What would you say is something that we could do as a community, as a city, in the historic 18th and Vine District that would help bridge the gap between that?
Yeah, great question. And it's definitely something I think about on a daily basis for sure. And it's a big reason why I started Vine Street Brewing Company. It's a big reason why I do things, why I bridge the divide between art and important conversations. I think we need density, personally. I think we need to find a spot, hopefully 18th and Vine, makes the most sense, and do our work here, hang our hat here. Because that was one of the things I noticed when, no one would book me, right? This time 10, 15 years ago, I've been in this for a minute.
Yeah.
No one wanted to book me, so I started doing my own events, and I did them in everyone else's spaces. And I think that worked well to get my name out there, but at the end of the day, when we think about legacy and when we think about community impact, I think it starts with density and coming together and having a space that we can say, this is where you go to see us.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so.
I 100% agree with that. A good example that I like to share is Inglewood, the Inglewood District in Independence, Missouri. Shout out to Russell and Inglewood Arts. They've single-handedly revived that entire strip.
Yeah, I keep hearing about it.
Of historic roads, movie theaters, everything. And I've performed there several times, even though I'm an outsider, because I am a Black man. I have been fortunate to see what happens when you bring density into the communities. And something that we touched up on last time was about making a hub here in Kansas City for the arts. It needs to be here.
Yeah.
I've been talking about it with a few of the other people that were here.
Right.
But I've been also thinking about it. It needs to be here. It needs to be 18th and Vine, and it needs to be ran by us because it starts with us. And I feel like if anybody else tries to do it, it won't have the same economic or social impact.
Yeah. For sure.
Like you were saying, I know so many talented artists that have been doing this for 10, 20 years, and they find it hard to get paid booking gigs in a city that is UNESCO certified, one of the first cities to ever do it.
The first one in the United States.
Atlanta tried it, but
Yeah.
Much love to the people down in ATL, but
Yeah.
I really think that if we want that big of an impact, it starts with us. It starts with us here, and it starts with us using and utilizing something like the World Cup to bring people in.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And when we think about 18th and Vine, 18th and Vine was really the business district of this community. 12th and Vine was really the entertainment district. And what did we do with 12th and Vine, right?
Yeah.
We let that go,
Yeah.
and we let the federal, federal programs and, urban renewal and all those things wipe out that entire identity part of our history.
Redlining.
Yeah, all the things.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. So, we used to have to take to answer your question, to take a playbook from the past and have that density, because this neighborhood was the one-stop shop for your doctor, for your dentist, for, any professional services. And then you had 12th and Vine. And forgive me if I'm wrong. I've never lived there, but I've just heard about all these things in this neighborhood. And that's what we had here. And that was such a strong thing. In fact, that's what allowed Kansas City to become internationally known, is Vine Street. So I think you're right. I think it does need to be down here, especially as it relates to music, but I think it could also relate to things like the culinary arts.
Absolutely.
And all the different aspects of creativity and culture here.
A culinary school on this block would go crazy.
Yeah.
Totally. A dentist down the road, or a vision person right up the road.
Yeah.
Do you know how many people would love that?
Yeah.
I think that would be amazing,
Right.
because something that I've learned in my time during undergrad is that when you mix arts with real life situations, things prosper.
Yeah.
It's like when you have fertile soil, you have to have other things in that soil, otherwise it won't be the best soil.
Yes.
And I think it's the same here.
Right.
If we bring both sides of the coin to here, we'd be unstoppable.
Yeah, for sure. And in the spirit of MLK, to your point about diversity, diversity isn't just a thing that sounds, that could sound cool, or to some sounds terrible for whatever reason. Diversity is life. You would not have life without it. You look at a petri dish, what makes that mold thrive and those fungi thrive? It's diversity. It's
better
outside.
speak on it.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, absolutely. So to your point, we need diversity within this neighborhood, and I think those are the things that will really point us in the right direction for sure.
Absolutely. This is my final question.
Yep.
Where would you start with that diversity?
I would start with identifying first and foremost the brand of this neighborhood, because I think we need to brand 18th and Vine. We need to brand the Jazz District. Right now, it doesn't have a logo. It barely has I don't even know if it has a website.
I can help with that.
Yeah, all the things, right? So I think we need to start with identity first, and because that forces us to look at what we have already and say, all right, we already got this, cool, let's lean on that.
Yeah.
And then we can see the gaps and opportunities to come. So yeah, I think brand is big. And
Absolutely.
then with brand, you reframe the psychology and the perception of this neighborhood. I think a lot of people are either, afraid to come down here, or say, oh, I haven't been over there. It's always over there.
Yeah, it's
right?
always over there.
Yeah, and that is something I hear a lot, and I'm like, okay, well, come over there then, because I'm always over there. Come on down. So yeah, reframing the perception of 18th and Vine and what it means to us. I really think we need to relieve pressure from the Jazz Museum.
Absolutely.
They are taking the full brunt of our musical legacy. And
Those people are exhausted.
yeah, right. Yeah. So I really think the Jazz Museum, I don't think it's fair to them. I think
agree.
it's fair to us. When people talk about Kansas City music, they're just going to talk about the Jazz Museum.
Absolutely, and that's something that Chris Good, the founder and CEO of Ruby Jeans, spoke about Monday at UMKC. I was fortunate enough to get an invite from him to listen to his speech.
Nice.
And I've been talking about this and thinking about this a lot, to put on your point. People wait in Kansas City for everything, especially the black community, because of the way that things have been ran for so long. And I think it ties into our past, because everything has been taken away from us strategically. And that's something that MLK talked about. And so something that we should be doing is no longer waiting. No longer waiting for the opportunity for a modicum of anything. We should be planning strategically and actively doing things, even if nobody sees them. You know, I think Martin Luther King said it best when he said that a riot is the language of the unheard, but I want to expand that and say that a riot can take place in many forms. You can riot verbally, you know, you can riot spiritually, you can riot against the systems in your community, you can riot against the status quo, you know, and I think people have an idea of what's over here, but in order for us to really make an impact, we have to, as people, be honest with them, ourselves, and what's going on, and then we can build. You know?
Right. Yeah, no, that's huge. And, you know, just to close out, because we've got a couple minutes left, Dr. Martin Luther King spoke a few blocks away from here.
He did. I saw
He did.
that.
Yeah. And isn't that a wonderful thing?
I know.
You know, this neighborhood is so rich with history. You know, talk about, you know, spaces that held the air he breathed, right? Like, yeah, that's wild. You know, 18th and Vine is where the Negro League started at, you know, at the building that's getting renovated, and then the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum will build, you know, an attachment to it for their future. You know, you've got, I've heard that Louis Armstrong was caught smoking pot back here.
Yes, he was.
At this lot I'm looking at. You know, you've got, you know, the Gym Theater and, you know, and what the Boone Theater will become and what it was. There's just so much history. Alvin Ailey is here. I feel like we've got some major blocks that are in this neighborhood. So with all you folks here in the audience today, this is a small but mighty crowd. I really appreciate you coming today. If you could just spread the word, this is your homework, if you could just spread the word about what we've got cooking in Kansas City and what we have already had cooking, and just tell one person, you know, what we have here, I think that'll make a major difference, because this is the most famous Kansas City neighborhood we have. And, you know, for people like Robert Glasper, who I was playing before we started here, who's the most world-renowned, pretty much, keyboard player, you know, pianist and composer in the world, to come to 18th and Vine and say that's it, that is embarrassing. And I think we need to fix that. So in the spirit of Dr. King, we got to keep going, right?
Yep, starts with us.
All right. Thank you guys so much for coming out. We're open till 9 p.m., so feel free to keep hanging out if you want. But that concludes our Lunch and Learn, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.